Okay, people, I have learned a ton from people over the years with seeing their shop tours and seeing where they store things. So I like to return the favor and wanted to give you a brief tour of my own shop. Just rearranged it after, I don't know, I guess it's third iteration. Always trying to find that perfect layout, and it's not always possible. So let me show you around. Okay, as you enter my shop, you got this nice little thing I made in a welding class. A lot of junk art there. That's not a judgment on the art. That's a type of art, junk art. I'm not a huge fan, but I did like this combination of items. And now you hop into the shop here. The shop is 13 feet wide by about 29 feet long. So, you know, it's a pretty big space for one person, but, you know, you always want more space. So it can be a real struggle. So let's walk the perimeter, and then I'll show you what everything is. So over here on this side, I have these two Harbor Freight tool chests. That is one of the things that is like great to buy from Harbor Freight. Their tool chests are a real deal, and they're really well made. So this one here is a lot of it is actually empty. It's available storage, but all my sharpening stuff is in there, and sometimes I can roll that into another location if I need to sharpen. This is really my main tool cabinet. Sort of random little tools up top, but things get a little more organized as you go down. I keep my chisels in this drawer. I have the Narex set. I also have a cheap set of Stanleys over here for when things get ugly or I get angry. I think keeping chisels in a drawer is great. Bunch of files and rasps. I picked these up at a tag sale, a yard sale, the whole lot of them for 25 bucks, which was that was a great steal. And then I keep a lot of safety glasses and earplugs. I actually buy these by the case from Amazon. They're like, you know, 15 bucks for 25 of them or something like that. So I can give them to my kids, and I'm not afraid when they walk away with them. Drivers, Robinson, Phillips, etc. I have, you know, security bits, lots of extra number 2s, and little miniature screwdrivers for all those like little repairs. Electrical stuff, big crimpers for maintaining my RV, a snake, strippers, linesman's pliers, and then a whole bunch of, actually find all these little pliers, you know, bent duckbills and needle nose and smaller needle nose and everything to be really useful. I don't use wrenches a lot, but I have a set in here. This is just literally like a loose set of sockets when I need them. And drill bits. I have a little sort of throwaway set. These are plug cutters over here, random bits that I've collected over the years, augers and bigger bits. I do have a set of the Festool Zobo bits, which are tremendous, and I have this Rockler set of brad points, which I use for all my really good stuff, and that's a nice set as well. And of course, fixed bits, you can't really live without those if you're doing hinges. And then another sort of random drawer of shears and staple guns, and you know, it's not the most organized thing in the world. Duckbills don't quite fit under there. Some lathe parts, garbage bags, steel wool, tack cloths, filters, and the bottom is actually just full of old tools. Behind here, I have two bins. The top one is clean rags. The bottom one is dirty rags. That actually works out really well for me. Keeps things organized. And above them, I keep my epoxy. There's slow setting epoxy on the right for casting objects, and of course the Venerable West system on the left. I have a bunch of things just hanging on the wall here. TSP, water, ethanol, good old Lysol. Hung up my Craig's jig, and then, you know, lots of frequently used finishes that I don't need a lot of. You know, a little tried and true, some paste wax, etc. I don't believe in spending a lot of time on shop furniture, so, you know, here's my charge caddy. The drills do fit in these little controls underneath, but I moved my cabinet here, so they don't really fit there anymore. And over here we have a big cabinet full of solvents and other doodads that I use. So, you know, there's a cloth with some camellia oil on it underneath it. T9, of course, general cement, some automotive stuff, isopropyl alcohol, WD, you know, you can see everything that's on here. A lot of different spray adhesive can be really useful when you need it. I even have some foam adhesive, and then tucked back in there I have some PV Blaster and other silicone stuff. Below that I have tape. I used to have a fancy tape holder, you know, made out of dowels and stuff like that, and it was always a mess and it was hard to get the tape out. So I like this simple shelf a lot better. And then in the corner here behind the door is kind of my junk pile. You know, I've got the stereo in here. I've got other tapes that are less used, you know, stockpiled. And then I have like, you know, just junk on the floor here. I do have these Festool racks full of small consumable parts. I don't use a lot of fasteners, but if I do need them, they're here. They're pretty well organized, mostly electrical stuff on the top. And then my hand planes are here as well. And, you know, these are pretty far from the bench, and I used to have them closer to the bench. But the reality is when I am using them, I go get them and I bring them over to the bench. And I've got the joiner, the jack, and the low angle or bevel up smoother from Lee Valley, the Veritas ones, and actually all the irons from those are interchangeable, which is really nice because they each have a different angle on them, so I can swap them out and get different angles with different planes if I want. I have a Lee Nielsen scrub plane. I actually use that more than I thought I would, because pretty much every time I have a cutoff of a nice looking board, I turn it into a cutting board. You know, so I have 12 inches of piece of maple or piece of mahogany or whatever. I'll quickly use a scrub plane to clean it down because it's too small to go through the planer. And gives me a little exercise, puts that plane to use, and makes for nice gifts, because actually hand planed cutting boards with the little divots from the scrub plane in them, people love them. They're great. So, I don't know, pro tip there. I keep my small block plane and shoulder plane in this little notch here, and then below them I have a moving Philister plow plane and a dado, or what's that called? Dado plane? I don't know. What's it called? Groove plane? I forget. I don't know. Recovered that off of eBay and fixed it up. I got this Grizzly grinder. It's a knockoff of the Shipback Tiger or whatever. Works great. And over here I have the Festool system. So why don't I continue the organizational stuff, and then I'll go on to power tools. Along this wall is all clamps. You can never have too many clamps. And I have found that clamping these just spring clamps along a board on the ceiling like this is the best way to keep them organized, at least for me, so I can have a lot of them at my disposal. And then for my parallel clamps, I actually just bought these. I actually just bought those little adapters from Rockler or whatever. So much easier than making them. It's cheap. Put a French cleat on them, and I'm done. You know, it couldn't be easier to do that way. I've used these little F-style clamps a lot. Very handy. I wish I could have twice as many of them. And then really long clamps, you know, my 40 inchers and 60 inchers are here in the corner. And then my really, really long clamps are up on the ceiling here. So I have a couple like bed frame size clamps, and a 60 inch, I guess, and two 72s or two 80s, 85 inch clamps or 86 inch clamps for doing beds. This is my main bench area, and I just want to talk about it for a second. You can see that it's like kind of out in the open here, right? It's not close to a lot of things. And the reason why is because I've really adopted an approach where when I need a tool, I go get it and I bring it to the bench. And then since things aren't easy to reach from the bench, I go back and forth. I put tools away instead of piling them up on the bench. Now I have a big empty space in the middle, and all my tools are out near the wall. So whereas I used to try to keep them like right within reach, now I have to go and get them. And I think that works really well, because when I'm going to use a tool, I go and get it, I keep it on the bench, and then when I'm done with it, I put it away. And it reduces the clutter that's immediately around my work surfaces. So this board that's along the wall here, which is just like a 1x6 along the wall here, is the one concession I made to tools that I always am using at the bench. You know, pencils, drill bits, you know, anything that I'm using a lot. My tape measure would go on here. You know, I can put that down quickly, measuring and marking tools. But everything else goes back along the walls of the shop, out of the way, and that way the bench stays open. And it means I have a fair amount of floor space open in the shop to like build furniture, you know, to keep a piece here. I also do have this this spot opposite the bench, which is kind of the dumping ground. It's a great place for me to store things that are like pieces and parts of projects or products coming in and out. It's a great place for me to open toolboxes and then and get the tools out and then put them back when I'm done. I will show you inside my air nailer case here. So this actually has worked out really well to store my air nailers. I just made some dividers inside this deep Festool case. There's some foam in the bottom there. I don't know if you can see it. To protect the tips and keep them off the tips, but that works really well. And then right above it, I keep all the air nails. You know, so this separation of dumping ground and bench, and the separation of like tools from bench, you know, putting things away, is a major change to the shop, and it's working out really nicely. You'll see on the floor there, this is all small cutoffs of hardwoods here. All the way to the right, that's all poplar. After that, that's all white oak. Third one's kind of a mix of exotics. The fourth one is mostly walnut. The fifth one is mostly sapele with a little maple, and the last one is all cherry. And I've actually found that this bucket system works pretty well for keeping that organized. So looking around here, I have the Anchor 5000. I barely use it. I should probably sell it. I basically use it just as a panel cutting jig to replace one that I lost. I have my saws in this makeshift till over here, and then just there is a French cleat up there, but I don't really use it much. Saw stop 36-inch fence. I really love it. It's been great and has worked really reliably. It's stayed dialed in the entire time I've had it. The drawer underneath, this is just a cheap drawer unit from IKEA, and I had it laying around, and I use it for my saw stuff and featherboards. And the beauty of it is there's enough space right on top to rest my fence. So when I take my fence off, I just throw it on top of there. Behind the saw, I have the drill press. This is an out-of-the-way spot. It's a weird spot for it, but it works really well because it doesn't get in the way of the saw. And if I needed to raise the drill press up, that's easy to do. But right now the saw is set for like a 32-inch cut, which is, you know, more than a half sheet of plywood, and the drill press is still not in the way. You know, it's an odd spot to work on it, but I have enough in-feed and out-feed, and it doesn't get in the way of other tools. Beyond the drill press, those are actually just mostly storage containers, Festool containers, you know, vacuum parts and that sort of thing. JDS Cyclone. I keep my lathe down here. It's furthest from the door to my house, and I figure that when I do use it, which is not that frequently, but when I do use it, it keeps the mess near this end of the house. I do have a door to the outside. Full height door, goes straight out to my driveway, so I can put my truck there, and there's a little overhang outside, so I can set things outside the door. 14-inch Grizzly bandsaw. That's years old and is still holding up beautifully. I don't keep a lot of wood on hand because my hardwood dealer is pretty close. And I have this Jet JJP12 jointer planer combo. Works well, does a nice job. I would never buy it again. It's had lots of small issues with it. I don't like the tables aren't smooth iron. They're this like sort of grooved weirdness. But it's got plenty of power, 12-inch jointer, you know, pretty reliable other than it breaking from time to time. I did take Chris Schwartz's advice and buy these rubber floats as push sticks, and they are fantastic. I really recommend that. Over here, bench dog, router table, cast iron top, wonderful, works great, plumbed into the dust collection, doesn't make a lot of mess, easy to move around. So there you go, you've pretty much seen the whole thing. So let me give one more walk around from the start so you can see it all in context here. Right, standing at the door here. tool wall. Festool vac and sanders in that corner. I didn't mention that before. In the main bench area. Table saw and drill press down there. Lathe and dust collector. Bandsaw in the far corner. Joiner planer. Router table. My sort of dumping ground here with my power hand tools, compressor, etc. And you know, the sort of big lesson from this version of the shop is this big empty space. That's like about 6 feet of distance between the bench and the dumping ground area. And this is another, like, you know, 3 or 3.5 feet here. So there's just a lot of space around this bench to walk around and maneuver. And really that's what I was trying to go for. I was trying to open up this space here so that I'd have more room to work and someplace to sort of leave my table to assemble it, or leave whatever furniture I was making in assembling it. And walking back and forth from this spot to the tool wall, or from there to other locations to get things is not such a big deal. And it allows me to keep this space really clean and clear, rather than reaching out for something and then sort of putting it down right next to me. Now I have room to work. So that's it. I hope that helps. Thanks for watching. See you later. Bye.